My name is Lena Carter. I'm 38 years old. Until recently, I worked as the regional brand director for a well-known lifestyle retail company based in Seattle. But now, I was just a woman trying to sit upright after a 7-hour operation to remove a life-threatening growth from my abdomen. I had barely woken from the fog of anesthesia. I hadn't even reached for water or pressed the call button for medication when Dylan, my husband, walked into the room. He didn't ask how I felt. He didn't touch my hand. Not even a glance of concern. Instead, he held his phone inches from my face. "Mom says you need to start planning the holiday feast," he said flatly. "Everyone's coming over." She said no excuses. I tried to lift myself, but a sharp fire ripped through the stitches beneath my hospital gown. My voice came out weak. "Dylan, I just had surgery. I really can't." He sighed like I'd inconvenienced him. "You're home all day anyway," he muttered. "Have you ever felt invisible inside your own marriage? Like your pain is an annoyance instead of something that matters. If you've ever spent a celebration forcing a smile while your heart hurt more than your body, you understand exactly what that moment felt like." I sat on the edge of the bed, frozen. Pain throbbed through my core, turning each breath into work. Morning light slipped through the curtains, reflecting my exhausted face in the dresser mirror. I barely recognized myself. Just 4 weeks earlier, I had been confident and self-reliant. I managed national campaigns with budgets over $450,000. I spoke at conferences, led teams, made decisions that moved entire markets. Now I struggled to lift a glass without shaking. I had taken medical leave almost 5 months ago when doctors first found the mass. Initially, they believed it could be monitored. Rest, observation, minor treatment. That was the plan. But after additional scans and biopsies, everything changed. I consulted 4 specialists across 2 different clinics before making the decision. Full removal, high risk, but also my best chance at survival. At the time, Dylan seemed supportive. "Your health comes first," he'd said, signing the consent paperwork at Northview Surgical Center. "I'll take care of everything." I believed him. What I didn't realize was that the life I called family was nothing more than a beautifully decorated prison. "What exactly do you expect me to do like this?" I whispered into the quiet room. But Dylan was already gone. My phone buzzed nonstop. Messages from his mother, Margaret, and his sister. Not one asked how I was recovering. Not one mentioned pain or healing. They only wanted to know if the meal would include their favorite dishes. The house I returned to days later didn't feel like mine anymore. Even though my name was still legally on the property, I felt like a guest, temporary and replaceable. The small comforts I once loved were gone. My cream-colored tea mug, the woven runner I bought during a trip to Sedona, everything had been swapped out for decor Margaret approved of. I opened my laptop to review my medical expenses. That's when I noticed an unread alert from the bank. "Transaction confirmed. Account withdrawal successful." And in that moment, I realized the surgery wasn't the only thing that had cost me something. $7,200 withdrawn from joint retirement account authorized by Dylan Carter. My vision blurred. A withdrawal. I had never approved that. I had never signed anything. That account was created right after our wedding, with a notarized agreement stating that neither of us could remove a single dollar without the other's written consent. My hands shook as I opened the transaction log. There it was. Multiple withdrawals, some $300, others $200, one nearly $400, all processed over the last 3 months, every single one initiated by Dylan. No conversation, no warning. My heart raced so violently it felt like my stitches might tear open again. I grabbed my phone and called Rachel Moore, a former university friend who was now a marital finance and property attorney. After I explained everything in a rushed whisper, she went quiet for a moment. "Send me every document you have," she said firmly. "Lena, if you don't stop this now, you could lose everything including the house." That night, while Dylan assumed I was sedated from pain medication, I heard his voice drifting from his home office. The door wasn't fully closed. I froze. "Mom, I told you she's vulnerable right now," he said calmly. "It's the perfect timing." A pause. "If she pushes back, we'll have the private physician claim she's anxious or unstable after surgery. Insurance will cover it. Private psych facilities take patients fast." My stomach dropped. I already told the bank she approved the withdrawals for medical costs. He continued, "Let's wait until after the holidays. Then we update the property records. She won't even notice." I pressed my palm against my abdomen, not from pain, but to stop myself from screaming. I had spent 9 years married to this man. I thought he was emotionally distant. I never imagined he was planning to erase me. I didn't call Rachel back. Instead, I opened my phone and hit record. Every word came through crystal clear. 12 full minutes. I saved the file and labeled it Holiday Strategy. Enough proof, enough truth, enough to wake me up. The next morning, Margaret, my mother-in-law, video called me. No greeting, no concern. "Victoria's bringing extra chairs. Lucas is handling the drinks. You'll cook the main dishes," she said smoothly. "Oh, and little Ariana can't have dairy anymore. Adjust the pasta, and please don't dry out the chicken like last year." Her face filled the screen, flushed beneath bright kitchen lights. A silk scarf embroidered with Dylan's initials was wrapped around her neck, like she owned the entire household. I couldn't fake it anymore. "Margaret," I said slowly, "I just had major surgery. I need rest." She scoffed. "You've been lying down for weeks. That's plenty. Women today are unbelievably fragile." I ended the call, no argument, no tears. I replayed the recording of Dylan's call again. Sometimes you need to hear the cruelty twice to fully understand how disposable you've become. I opened a new folder on my laptop. Lena's plan. It had nothing to do with food. It started with survival. That holiday dinner they were so excited about. It was going to happen. Just not the way they expected. I sat quietly in the corner of the living room, laptop glowing dimly beneath closed curtains. Beside me lay a stack of papers, hospital invoices, bank statements, insurance letters, and audio recordings from inside my own home. I had started recording Dylan 2 days earlier. At first, it was fear. Then it became clarity. I planted a small recorder under his office desk, another beneath the living room couch, every complaint, every phone call, every careless confession. That afternoon, while Dylan was at the gym, I called Rachel again and sent her everything, the recordings, scanned copies of documents, and images of forged signatures on the home equity paperwork. She called back within 10 minutes. "That signature isn't yours," she said without hesitation. "I've handled multiple forgery cases this year. Any examiner will spot it." My exhaustion finally caught up with me. "It's worse," she continued. "The house is jointly owned, but if Dylan accessed equity using forged consent and the bank approved it, you're now tied to debt you never agreed to." I clenched my fists. "Can I stop it?" "Yes, but you need to move fast. Your post-surgery condition actually helps. It proves you weren't capable of consenting to legal changes. I'll file a forgery complaint and contact the notary office immediately." "What if he transfers ownership to his mother?" I asked. "I'm monitoring the property registry. If there's movement, we'll request an emergency injunction. But you must not let them know you're aware. You need time." Then she added quietly, "Be prepared. People like Dylan don't just manipulate finances. They manipulate narratives. If they sense resistance, they'll label you unstable." My voice cracked. "You think they'd try to institutionalize me?" "I think they might try," she said honestly. "But keep documenting everything. I'll handle the legal side. Your job is to stay alive and alert in that house." After the call, I photographed every page of the folder Dylan kept for banking meetings, account numbers, timelines, forged initials. I saved them under one word, evidence. I didn't cry anymore. Only focus remained. The next day, Margaret arrived unannounced. "You haven't started cooking," she barked, stepping inside like an inspector. I sat on the sofa, one hand over my incision, the other holding warm water. "I'm recovering," I replied calmly. "Recovering doesn't mean resting," she snapped. When I had Dylan, I was shopping 3 days later. Her eyes scanned the room critically. "No tree, dust on the windows. Don't embarrass my son." I stayed silent. The microphone in my coat pocket was already recording. She listed instructions from a small notebook: seating arrangements, sugar limits, turkey presentation, vegetarian accommodations. I nodded. "This is the last time I'll ever need to remember these details," I said softly. She frowned but left. Within minutes, I sent the recording and front door camera footage to Rachel. Her reply came instantly. "Perfect. This is documented psychological abuse during surgical recovery. Keep everything." That night, sleep wouldn't come, not from fear, but because my plan was finally complete. I would host their perfect holiday dinner, and the main course wouldn't be turkey. It would be the truth served cold, precise, and impossible to ignore. "Yeah, Lucas and Mia will help with the decorations," Dylan said casually. "You just need to handle your portion." I took a slow breath. And what exactly is my portion? 12 main dishes, 4 desserts, and a vegetarian spread for Mia's new partner. He paused, then gave a smug half-smile. "You've managed more than that before." "I wasn't recovering from abdominal surgery back then, Dylan." "Then just sit nearby and supervise," he replied lightly, as if discussing the weather. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Every word was already being recorded. What I was preparing wasn't a celebration. It was a case file. That evening, the messages began flooding in. Mia sent photos of crystal glasses. "Do you have navy blue napkins to match?" Ethan texted, "Please don't overcook the beef again." A distant relative wrote, "No garlic in my salad, and the cookies must be nut-free." I quietly screenshotted every message. Not just the words, the assumption behind them. "Margaret didn't text," she called. "Every single day. Have you ordered the turkey? Don't forget the candles. This year the fruit loaf needs cherry filling, not apricot. Leo's sensitive. And please put a mat at the front entrance. Last year the walkway looked dusty." I lay propped against pillows, phone in my hand, listening silently, not arguing, because every sentence was being saved. I began writing my own shopping list, but instead of groceries, I typed, "Emergency petition to freeze property for medical report confirming postoperative condition, witness list for coercion and emotional pressure." Dylan didn't notice. He thought I was complying. On Sunday, he dragged in a pine tree nearly 6.5 feet tall, placing it right in the center of the living room, blocking the hallway. "Do you know what it's like to step carefully with stitches and find obstacles everywhere?" I asked quietly. "Just go around through the kitchen," he said without looking up. I laughed softly. "Your mother picked this tree, didn't she?" He nodded. "She wants things traditional. She also wants me to wrap 75 gifts in silver paper, right?" Again a nod. "If you can't manage, Mia and Lucas will help." I went to my room, checked the tiny recorder beneath the lamp. Still running. That night, I called Rachel. "You holding up?" she asked. "Strategically, yes. Emotionally, less so." She paused. "They have no idea, Lena." "Good. I've confirmed the forged mortgage documents. If you want, we can file immediately." "I'm not afraid of court," I said quietly. "I'm afraid of losing my resolve." "You won't," she replied firmly. And that holiday gathering, it's the perfect stage. After the call, I opened the refrigerator, almost empty. The grocery list Dylan made wasn't for me to eat. It was for me to perform. I didn't go shopping. I opened a delivery app, not ingredients restaurants. I ordered herb roasted chicken from a French bistro Sloss, smoked barbecue from a Southern Grill dairy, free vegetable lasagna from an Italian cafe, mushroom pasta trays from an organic kitchen, all scheduled for 1:15 p.m. on the 25th. I paid deposits using Dylan's secondary card, the one he'd forgotten I still had. I wasn't emptying accounts like he had, just booking one meal for his family. Then I contacted a local print studio. I sent them every screenshot and recording transcript. Requested a 2-size prints, bold borders, laminated. I had my own holiday plan. The next morning, Dylan looked surprised when he saw me dressed neatly, hair tied back. "You're up early." I smiled faintly. "Your mother's right. Traditions matter. I'll do this properly." He studied me, suspicious. Finding nothing but calm, he handed me Margaret's handwritten plan. "Good. Start preparations soon." Inside, I felt only peace. After he left, I locked the door, closed the curtains, and checked my inbox. All confirmations had arrived. Everything was set. I called Rachel again. "Paperwork nearly complete. Your share of the property is now protected under a trust. He can't move anything without oversight." Perfect. Later, the print shop confirmed 58 laminated posters ready. When I picked them up, the clerk asked softly, "Exhibition?" Something like that. That evening, Dylan returned with decorations. He froze when he saw me calmly sorting lights and linens. Starting early, just being prepared. He nodded and went upstairs. Once the house fell silent, I laid out the posters, each categorized: mockery, control, threats, dismissal of illness. 3 larger ones went on the dining wall. From Margaret, "Stop whining. Holidays aren't about weakness." From Mia, "If you can't cook, don't ruin it for everyone." From Dylan, "Aren't you home all day anyway? No commentary needed." I placed a small sign on the table. "Welcome to the dinner you requested, main course." The truth the next day. I ordered a cake from a small bakery near the park. "Vanilla outside," I said, "but inside spicy, unforgettable." The baker nodded. "I understand." By the 24th, everything ran like clockwork. Dylan believed I had surrendered. That night, I packed a small suitcase. At 8:00 a.m., a private car would arrive. Before dawn, I left a note. "Don't ask where I am. Ask why I had to leave." Beside it, a fabric-wrapped USB labeled, "What you never heard." I slipped out through the garden gate. By 8:40 a.m., I reached a quiet lakeside retreat in the north of the state. Room 214. I opened the camera app. Countdown: 11:05 a.m. Cars arrived one by one. Margaret first, then Mia with Oliver, then Ethan. Dylan greeted them, calm and confident. Inside, confusion spread. No food, no smells. Then Margaret stepped into the dining room and froze. The wall was covered. Messages, bills, medical records, their own words staring back at them. The TV turned on. Dylan's voice filled the room. "She's weak now. Perfect timing." Margaret's voice followed. "Women who complain don't deserve comfort." Silence, then the screen went black. One line appeared. "This dinner was never about food. It was about what you consumed without question." I closed the app, leaned back, and for the first time in years I could breathe. Don't ask where I am. Ask yourselves why I had to leave. For several seconds, no one spoke. From the live feed on my tablet, I watched the room fall into stillness. Margaret stood frozen like a figure carved from stone. Mia lowered her head, her face drained of color. Ethan collapsed into a chair, staring blankly at the floor. Dylan remained standing near the table, his hands trembling, his eyes fixed on the small wrapped box sitting in the center. Lauren stepped forward calmly and placed a slim USB drive into Margaret's open palm. "She left this for you," Lauren said evenly. "It contains everything you need to hear." Margaret turned suddenly as if to protest, but no sound came out. She looked around the room. The table was perfectly set. White linen, smooth and untouched. Candles flickered gently. The cake sat pristine, but there was no hot food and no Lena. No woman quietly expected to cook, smile, and endure. A small voice broke the silence. "Mom, is Aunt Lena coming back?" Mia tightened her arms around her daughter and slowly shook her head. Dylan swallowed hard. She's not coming back, he said hoarsely. Miles away in a mist-covered lakeside cabin, I placed a hand over my chest. My heartbeat was steady now, calm like water at dawn. I wasn't there, but I had seen everything, not for revenge, so it would never be erased. Margaret clutched the USB as if it burned her skin. Her face crumpled and she began to cry. But it wasn't remorse. It was rage at losing control. She recorded me. Margaret gasped. She spied on us like an enemy in our own house. The child pressed closer to her mother, sensing the wrongness of the moment. "Where is Aunt Lena?" she whispered again. Mia avoided her eyes. The girl suddenly pulled free, running toward the table, scanning the room desperately. "Aunt Lena, where are you?" she cried. "Aren't you coming back?" No one answered. She was sick. The child shouted through tears. "Why did you make her do everything? You're mean. Grandma is mean too." Mia panicked, trying to quiet her. "I mean it." The child screamed. She was the only one who asked if she was okay. Dylan stood near the fireplace now, his composure gone. "This is all my mother's fault," he snapped suddenly, turning on Margaret. "If she hadn't pushed her, hadn't controlled everything, this wouldn't have happened." Margaret stared at him, stunned. "You're blaming me." "Who else?" Dylan shouted. "You never accepted her. You controlled everything." Ethan leaned back, voice laced with bitter humor. "Nice. Took you long enough to see it." Mia whispered, shaking. "Were we really that cruel?" Margaret pointed at the dark TV screen. "She humiliated us on a sacred holiday." At that exact moment, every phone in the room chimed. A message from me appeared in the family group chat. "Dinner has been paid for using Dylan's credit card. If you're unhappy, take it up with the bank. I will not be returning the house because it never belonged to you." Dylan's face went pale. "She used my card," he shouted. Ethan scoffed. "That's mild. I'd have sold the furniture." Dylan hurled his phone to the floor. It shattered. Mia screamed, "Our child is here." She exposed us. Dylan roared. "She recorded everything." Margaret hissed, trembling, "We need a lawyer. We'll sue her." Ethan laughed outright. "After what's on those recordings, you're finished." Margaret sank into her chair. The child wiped her tears. "I don't want food. I want to call Aunt Lena." Mia whispered, frozen. "She isn't here anymore." The girl turned to Margaret. "Grandma, why didn't you let her rest?" Margaret said nothing. Dylan grabbed his coat. "I'll deal with this. Mom, clean up. Mia, take her home." "Where are you going?" Margaret asked. "To the bank and to a lawyer." When the door slammed shut, I was still by the cabin window, sipping hot tea. I felt no triumph, only release. A week later, on a bitterly cold morning, I walked into a law office beside Rachel. I didn't shiver. The conference room was quiet. Through frosted glass, I saw Dylan slumped in his chair. I entered. "No greetings." Rachel placed the file on the table. "This is the divorce petition," she said calmly. "Attached are records of forged signatures, misuse of joint assets, and medical coercion." Dylan stared at the documents. "Are you really taking this far?" he asked. Rachel smiled faintly. "She isn't escalating. You started this." He looked at me. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I met his eyes. "Was pressure the reason you planned to have me committed?" He flinched. "When did you know?" he whispered. "Before I ordered the holiday dinner." Silence filled the room. "You had a year to speak." I said quietly, "But you chose silence. You chose control." Rachel slid another file forward. "This is the power of attorney document filed in your mother's name, dated while my client was hospitalized." Dylan froze. "I didn't know." "All the worse," Rachel replied. "That makes you negligent." Finally, Dylan whispered, "Are you pressing criminal charges?" "No," I said. "I just want to leave without debt." Rachel nodded and continued in a steady legal tone. And as she spoke, I realized something important. I didn't need revenge. I had my freedom. My client requests full retention of the house as compensation for emotional and health damages. Joint accounts will be divided proportionally after deducting the illegal withdrawals on your side. You have nothing left, Mitchell murmured. I have nothing left, I replied, standing. I'm not taking anything from you. You traded it all away. I pulled a small USB from my pocket and placed it on the table. It contains the recording of you talking about investing in crypto, using the house money, the house I paid for with my health. If you ever need a reminder of why I'm not coming back, open it. Mitchell covered his face. His shoulders shook. Jenna closed the file and stood beside me. We'll file the paperwork within 3 days. Any hearings can be requested in camera to protect private health information, but I advise signing quickly to avoid further complications. He said nothing, just sat there, like someone waking from a long dream, realizing everything he believed in was gone. I didn't look back as I left the room, not out of bitterness, but because after so many times I finally understood. The only thing worth taking forward was myself. On New Year's morning, I returned to the old house, no longer Mitchell Graham's wife, no longer the picture-perfect daughter-in-law in Evelyn's eyes, no longer invisible at holidays. I returned as the sole legal owner. The transferred sign in the yard had been taken down weeks ago. Jenna had completed the paperwork. I had washed the dishes in silence countless winters. Now I signed documents that restored ownership fully, lawfully, and in alignment with my own heart. I opened the door, took a deep breath. The house was the same, but no longer heavy with control. Wedding photos, perfect Thanksgiving frames, Mitchell and Evelyn in the backyard. They were gone. In their place, I placed frames I chose. One, a photo of me by the lake, scarf around my shoulders, cup of tea in hand. Another, the handwritten note from Madison. Aunt Sophia, I miss you. Next year, just us, that's enough. The divorce was finalized. Mitchell did not contest. I don't know if he gave up or was simply exhausted. Jenna made it clear I won lawfully, rightfully, and peacefully. I also filed a protection order against Evelyn 500 feet from my home, no calls, no letters. The court granted it. Jenna promised she wouldn't dare show up. The media buzzed almost immediately. My phone wouldn't stop for 3 days. Messages from strangers, old friends, and online communities. A 6-minute clip of the Christmas event surfaced. The doorbell, Evelyn walking in. Everyone's shocked reactions to the posters on the walls, ending with the line on the screen, "Don't ask where I am, ask why I had to leave." Reddit, YouTube, comments flooded in. I cooked Christmas for 16 years for my in-laws and never once was asked, "Are you tired? Thank you for showing me I'm not crazy." She didn't just get even, she taught a lesson in boundaries. I never imagined I could say no and still survive. Within 3 weeks, Tradition Rewritten had over 10,000 subscribers. Women shared their stories, from new mothers to wives forced to clean while ill. Jenna wrote about legal rights. Lauren shared her experience caring for those suffering emotional abuse. My house was no longer a place for judgment. It became a haven for truth and self-respect. I turned on the dining room light. The wall that held the posters now had a single painting, a green sprig, beneath it a small line. "I used to be the main course at every holiday. Now I write the menu." I touched the wooden table, tracing an old scratch Evelyn once mocked as carelessness. Those marks were now mine. No one could erase them. A year later, in my small, cozy apartment, sunlight filtered softly. No doorbells, no orders, no scolding. Just cinnamon rolls in the oven-hot mushroom soup, garlic butter toasts, microgreen salad, peppermint hot chocolate. Friends arrived. Jenna with her ukulele, Lauren with a basket of apples, and Madison's handmade card, the most precious note I ever received. We laughed, shared stories, celebrated life, and a Christmas that was truly mine. No pretense, no rules, just freedom. Holidays aren't about food or tradition. They're about living true to yourself. Have you ever stood in a cold kitchen, cooking endlessly for people who never saw you? Have you ever chosen to walk away, not out of weakness, but to protect yourself? If this story touches you, share your thoughts below. Someone out there needs to hear it. And if you want to follow me honest stories about family, boundaries, and reclaiming your life, hit subscribe. Because holidays, like life, are about the right people and the courage to choose yourself first.